episode of the podcast series that I'm doing in association with School Management Plus. It's called Russell Spears and Friends, and each episode I catch up with a friend that I've made during my 25 or so years in education. I ask them about what they do, where they do it, and there's one question that I've been asking everybody, which is what they think helps a school to thrive. And the idea is that over the series, we'll build up a collection of inspiring ideas and examples of thriving schools around the world. Now, today, my friend is Neil Cufley. Hello, Neil.
Morning, Russell. How's it going?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. And thanks for making time for this. So Neil is the Director of Operations and Finance, sometimes called a bursar or a COO. And you do that at the Royal Russell School in Croydon. But people also know you because you're the chair of the board of the ISBA, the Independent Schools Bursars Association. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm nearly 2 years into being the chair of ISBA. I'm just approaching my 7th year of being here at Royal Russell.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much, and it's really good to see you again. So you're not wearing a tie. I think that I don't know if that's the first time I've seen you without a tie. Is that because you're on half term? I think, aren't you?
Yeah, you've caught us at half term. So there are very few children here, and I say very few children because we've got about 75 in our holiday club, which we run. So we have wraparound care. So the school is open normally 51 weeks a year. 36 of that is term time. The rest of it is sports activities, wraparound care, holiday club, those sorts of things. So we're always busy. But yeah, you've caught me with no tie because there are no students and there are no teachers here, funnily enough.
Okay. And is that an important income stream for you, or is it more a sort of service to the community, or?
It's both, actually. I mean, it's all income is important. I think most bursars will say that. Most heads will say that. It doesn't generate anywhere near what the fees do. But again, certainly for our community, it's a really important thing that we put on. Lots of our parents are both working, so they need that holiday club and that wraparound care to make their lives a bit more easy, so they can actually go to work and make sure that their children are well looked after.
Right. Yeah, well, I'm sure it's very popular and very useful. Speaking as a dad of 3 in the holidays where I am now, a half term. So tell us a bit about Royal Russell School. I mean, I came to visit it. It's got a great name, of course, but I came to visit it last term and really, really enjoyed my time with you and Chris and everyone else. It's actually had I don't know what sort of wobbly history, hasn't it? Because it almost didn't make it to today. Is that right? Have I got that right?
Yeah, you've got it right. I mean, the school was founded in 1853 and had some serious backing at the time. The Prime Minister, Lord Russell, at the time founded the school in 1853, and he corralled the help of the warehousemen, clerks, and drapers. So three of the great livery companies, and the great and the good of London. And Royal Russell, when it first started, was a school that children didn't pay fees to come to, because it was for the strapline was for the poor and necessitous of London, so orphans and children whose parents had passed away, mainly, and that kind of type of child thankfully diminished, and towards the 70s there wasn't the backing of rich benefactors, so the school very nearly closed in the 70s. And there was a big movement from parents and supporters of the school to gather the money together to buy this land. And you'll see the school behind me on the screen here.
Yeah. Great photo, yeah.
It's an amazing site, beautiful site. People are shocked. 110 acres of woodland in South London. So it was bought by benefactors, and so really the school is an interesting place to look at, because it was founded by the great and the good. The monarch, we've always had the monarch as our patron, and Her Majesty was our patron until she passed, and we're waiting to hear from the palace about the king. But again, we started to be a fee-paying school in the 70s. So I've described this before, that Royal Russell rose from the kind of ashes, really phoenix-like, and that's why it is what it is. It's grounded in history, but it's a kind of fresh, kind of innovative. It's very representative of South London. and you can see that in our staff body and our pupil cohort. So yeah, it's somewhere I'm proud to work. It's a great place, and the history is interesting.
Yeah, no, I definitely got. I mean, there clearly are a lot of traditions, and to do with, there was one that was to do with cross country. I remember you telling me about, but it really did strike me as a very contemporary school, a very modern school, not at all stuffy, very sort of energetic and innovative. So, and you have some schools abroad as well. Is that right, or what's the situation there?
Yeah, we've got the site that I'm sat at now. You can see on the screen behind me. We've got the junior school and the senior school. So that's co-educational, boys and girls, junior school, senior school, and boarding. So there are about 1,200 students on this site. And then we've got a prep school out in Purley, which is about 3 or 4 miles from us, that generally does brilliant things for that part of the community. And then overseas, we've got Royal Russell in Lithuania, so in the capital city, Vilnius. We've got 2 smaller schools in China running A-level sixth form. And then we've got a school that's developing in Busan, which is the second city of South Korea. So I've been back and forwards there a few times. Again, super exciting stuff that we can mix up in terms of pedagogy, and linking up. Internationality is a big thing for us. So 7 years ago, it was just Royal Russell. So it's grown pretty quickly in the last 7 years.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, congratulations on everything you've achieved so far.
Thank you.
So let's turn our attention now to this question that I'm going to ask you, and which I've asked a lot of other people on this podcast, which is about if you had to sort of, I mean, there are so many things that help school life. That's partly why it's so wonderful to work with schools. But what's the thing that you would want to highlight that you think really helps a school to thrive, Neil?
I think it's a positive culture, and that needs to be we talk a lot about community here at Royal Russell, and the community needs to feel that there's a positive culture. How do you do that? To set examples. Our headmaster is a great man, Chris Hutchinson. He's been here for, I think this is his 13th year now. And so he sets that positive culture. I align with that hugely, and it feels as though our staff body does, and our students do as well. We talk of inclusivity. We talk about how people lead one another rather than being led, and our students have a student voice, as do colleagues. And we want to make sure that people are heard rather than being told what to do. And there's a lot of consultation. Sometimes we have to make a decision because that's part of working in a big organisation. But there's an inclusive tone that we like to set through leading by example.
Brilliant. Okay, great. No, that's so it's a sort of all-encompassing, almost like the atmosphere, the environment, the almost the air that you breathe, isn't it? It's everything. A positive culture, I suppose.
Yeah. It's easy to say it, Russell, isn't it? It's easy to say, okay, these are the words we want to use and the tone that we want. But actually, if you're not going to set that in practice, and there's the old, adage of, you have to live by the words that you use. And of course, we talk about that through 4 pillars. So Royal Russell has 4 pillars, our strategic approach, which is people, learning, place, and community. And each one of those pillars has kind of 4 aspects of that as to how we would wish to conduct ourselves in terms of our people. I'll give you an example of that. The children are the reason that we're here, but I'll give an example from my side of the house, the support side. I lead all of the support staff, and it's about making sure that our people feel valued, trusted, and heard. Well, how do you do that? I can give some examples of that in a bit.
No, please.
I think as long as you've got a pathway for people and they understand what you're here for, then that's really important. So take one example. We've got our commercial aspect, which runs part of the school for some income. A few years ago, that was a very flat linear structure where there wasn't a pathway to promote through the organisation and feel that you added value throughout. So we set about putting a number of levels of colleague through that. So you can come in as a junior member of staff, and promote your way through up to the manager level. Of course, the next level up will be mine. And I say to colleagues, well, where do you want to go? Do you want to take my job in time? A couple have said yes, a couple have said no, I'm not that mad. But we set clear pathways for people, and we're unambiguous about the language we use and the tone with which we use, and we follow that through in practice. For people that have been here for some time, I'll give you an example. I'm going to be seeing Barry. Barry's worked in our maintenance department, and he's been here for 20 years. So we'll make a big fuss of Barry, and we've got him a nice gift and some champagne, and the headmaster and I will just surprise him in their restroom a bit later on in the week, and go and see him and thank him, and make sure that the handwritten note that he and I will both sign goes to Barry, and he recognises that we haven't just done that because we want to, we've done it because we really mean it. And so it's actions and words together, I think, that are important, so that people feel valued, rather than organisations that just say, well, we value you. You've got to go about and practice what you preach, I suppose.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. There's so many great examples you've just given there, and I think, I don't know how unusual it is, but I think it's probably fair to say that it's not commonplace to have a clear career development pathway for all support staff. I mean, I think I'm safe in saying that, and so that's fantastic that you've got that.
Yeah, people that know me and we know one another well will say, okay, well, Neil's not your archetypal bursar, and that's fine. I'm happy with that. And you and I have spoken previously about my work here as a leader. I firmly recognise that Chris is the boss. That's absolutely right. But I have a part to play in supporting him and other colleagues. So I've got 8 people that I work with, and that they're called operational heads of department. So right. What I've done is put the right people in the right places. The old analogy of people in the seats on the buses. Well, we've done that, and those people are better than me at what they do. They've got a depth of knowledge that I need to be the guy with a knowledge that's a mile wide but an inch deep, and theirs needs to be a foot wide and a mile deep. So. Yeah. And we sit together as a team, and I will trust their judgment. The thing that I've learned probably since working here is absolutely to admit when you're wrong, and that other people have a much better view than oneself on particular things. And I often find it quite rewarding to say, do you know what, I've got that wrong, because you can see that as one simple interaction as an empowerment for those colleagues that you work with. Because in a kind of non-direct way, you're saying you absolutely got it right and I got it wrong. There's a humility and a humbleness from doing that. And I read that somewhere, that it was a good thing to do. So I've tried it, and it seems to work. I think it was probably in one of your books, Russell.
Well, I certainly get a lot wrong, and I'm pretty good at owning up to it. So, but I don't know. I don't think you got it from me. But no, that creating that space where people feel safe as well. I think if you're quite open about when you maybe don't make the right decision or misunderstood something, then I think it makes it safer for people to try things out as well, and occasionally therefore get things wrong, take a few risks, be creative, innovate. I think that all goes together. So that's fantastic.
And trust.
Can I ask you? Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, trust is the biggest thing in all of that. And I love to see people develop. And new colleagues, I would say, just do it. Just do it. Go and make a decision. As long as it's not a safeguarding issue, or you're not going to lose money, or there isn't a physical risk to someone, just do it. Go and make a decision. The worst thing that will happen is you get it wrong. But if you empower people to do that, and that in itself, we talked earlier about words and tone. Of course, that there's a real demonstrable example of why it's important to say to people, please just get on with it. And of course that develops people at the lowest levels, and they then want to rise up through the ranks, if that's the right way to put it, and promote, because that's a kind of self-fulfillment thing. So there's a lot of people would call it leadership mumbo jumbo, but having seen that work in practice, it is one of the most powerful things that we've been able to do here.
Yeah, no, and I saw that myself when I was with you. Tell me, I mean, can you give me any other examples of things I might see, I obviously did spend a bit of time in the school, but if I was to spend a week or perhaps shadowing you, what might what might surprise me, or what sort of things do you do on a sort of regular basis that you think sort of help to consolidate that very positive working culture?
Yeah, I've got a couple of examples. I mean, when I came to the school, there was CPD, there was training, but there wasn't a structure. So what we've done is put in place a structure, so people know where they sit in the organisation, what their part in the plan is,
Hmm.
and why they're there to do that. But if you Richard Branson once said about training people, and whether you train them effectively and they leave the organisation. I can't remember the exact phrase, but what he meant, I think, was if you don't train
You
them,
said
they
develop people so that they are able to leave, but they want to
they
stay.
want to stay. That's the phrase, yeah. And so
Mm.
I kind of took that and thought, well, that's really quite powerful. So we've set up a process of CPD for staff, and I give you a real world example of that.
Yeah, yeah,
The people that run their departments, let's take catering as an example.
yeah.
The catering and hospitality manager will make sure that his chefs can go out into the real world and see what it's like at Box Park in Croydon, or we'll send them to the Dorchester, or we'll send them around the bazaars to make sure that they see what high class catering is like, what street food is like, so that they're up to date with the latest trends. We'll send them to the local butchers. We'll get them to talk online. We'll also make sure they do the really important stuff like the allergen accreditation, because
Mm.
that's a really important thing, given what happens in the real world. So that's at the kind of the departmental level. If you come to the operational team, once a year, I will make sure that we have all of the operations team together. Now, if you imagine at Royal Russell, there are 400 members of staff. About
Yeah,
a third of those are teachers. The other two-thirds are support staff. So in the summer, we get every single member of support staff together, and there'll be a bit in the morning where there'll be a bit of a state of the nation and why we've done. We explain to people where the school's going and what's happened over the year.
mm.
We'll celebrate successes. We'll do a bit of embarrassment where we get people at the front and thank them for doing some amazing things. Then we'll have some education, some training, but also some fun. So we do a bit of an it's a knockout. We've done some games. We've done prizes. So at the end, we get to put medals on people and say thank you. And then there's a barbecue and a few beers or a glass of Coke or whatever you want. But we make sure that the teams are mixed up. So if you're in catering, you don't just go with
Mm.
catering. The catering work with the estates team, that work with the advertising and marketing team, that work with the IT team, that work with the medical team, and you make sure you get to know people. When we did it I think it was last year, at the end of the day, I said to people, please put your hand up if you didn't want to be here this morning. And virtually everyone put their hand up. And I said, please leave your hand up if you feel the same now. And one person left his hand up, and that's fine. He said, I've just not enjoyed today at all, and that's okay. But it
Yeah,
gives you an insight actually as to the culture, because he felt safe enough to be able to say that in and
yeah,
amongst people.
absolutely.
So we do that
Yeah.
annually. It's good fun. We're lucky. We've been able to use the CCF shooting range. We've been able to take part in sports events as teams, and we make sure that when we do tours, for example, that parents or potential parents meet members of the support staff. You bump into one of the grounds people or one of the porters or one of the people in the boarding houses, and say, well,
Mm.
what's it like here? And you get the parents to be able to talk to them as not a teacher, someone else who's there to provide support to the pupils.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful that all of everything you've said is just brilliant, really. But I think that's so powerful, that last point about making it not just possible, but actually almost encouraging the conversations between parents and support staff. I know of one school where the support staff that were cleaning the boarding house would be asked to get out of the way when there were visitors. And if I were in charge of a boarding house, I'd do the exact opposite, because if you've got everybody who's like positive, happy, understands their place in the organization, like you say, then that's just a wonderful, authentic uh, impression you're giving. And I think
Yeah.
that's really, really good.
It goes back to
Um,
one of our pillars, Russell, of community. Spoke about
yeah.
people learning place and community. The community, take for a weekend as an example. On a Saturday, there'll be sports going on. There'll be as many support staff here as there are teachers. whether they're catering, cleaning, first aid, medical, boarding house staff, whether they're driving a minibus. And again, we want those pupils to be able to recognize who those people are. And again, you think about safeguarding. Some of the most positive cultures are created by everyone. And of course, if you're a domestic staff, a cleaner, or a house matron in one of the houses, they need to understand that it's as much their responsibility to report issues to the DSL as it is some of the most senior teachers. And that's an important part of culture. It's very hard to put your finger on it, but when you talk about it in that way, those people are no one is more or less important at Royal Russell. The boss is the boss, the headmaster is the headmaster. I get that, and sometimes those of us who are privileged to be leaders have to make difficult decisions, but everyone's voice is heard, and everyone's opinion is as important as the others.
It does. What you're saying is you're putting the flesh on the bones, really, for me, because I experienced this, as I said earlier, when I came to see you, and I've obviously known you and Chris for many years. But it's wonderful now to hear some of the examples and the practices and what I call, or what my colleagues and I, RS academics, call the systems and symbols that make these things happen. Unfortunately, we're going to have to bring it to a close, because I think I said to you that this does happen. We're in the heart of the conversation, and I have to bring it to a stop because I'm quite keen to keep these podcast interviews fairly short. But I could listen to you all day, and I've learned so much. Thank you very much indeed, Neil. Wish you all the very best, and look forward to seeing you in person before too long, I hope. Thank you.
Good to talk with you, Russell. Thanks so much.